Welcome back to Bookwise, the channel that shares knowledge for holistic self-development through books. In 1857, the writer Gustave Flaubert was prosecuted in court for the adulterous story he wrote in his novel Madame Bovary. The book was accused of offending public morality and religion in France. After being defended by his lawyer, Flaubert was declared innocent. This event caused a significant stir in contemporary public opinion, drawing readers to his novel. It quickly became the best-selling book of that year. Even by 2007, it ranked second in Time magazine's list of the 10 greatest novels of all time. To this day, many still use this story as a reminder to themselves. The protagonist of the novel is Emma, also known as Madame Bovary. She is the wife of Dr. Charles Bovary, a husband who deeply loves her. However, Emma constantly dreams of a romantic and idealized love. After experiencing 2 affairs while married and sinking into mounting debt, she ultimately resorts to buying arsenic and ends her life. Emma's tragedy is both sorrowful and a cautionary tale for us. Often, the unhappiness in life lies in the very happiness we are pursuing. Having happiness, yet failing to cherish and preserve it, leads only to sorrow. Today, Bookwise would like to share a topic titled, "Don't Seek Happiness While Already Living in It," through the lens of the novel Madame Bovary. The unhappiness of living in happiness. Without recognizing it, Emma was born into a wealthy farming family and raised by her father as if she were a noblewoman. She was sent to a convent school until the age of 18, where she studied various arts, such as dancing, playing the piano, painting, and embroidery, rather than theology. When she left school, Emma retained only a romantic soul and an insatiable longing for an ideal figure, much like the novels she secretly read during her time at the convent. For Emma, love was always like a pink feather floating in the sky, visible but always out of reach. This left her feeling melancholic until Dr. Charles Bovary arrived at her home to treat her father's injury. He fell in love with her at first sight. Soon after, they married, and Emma became Madame Bovary. However, after a brief period of sweetness, Emma realized that married life was far from the dream she had envisioned. She had hoped her husband would be ambitious and renowned, but Charles was content with his modest financial situation and lacked aspirations for greater achievements. Emma also desired her husband to be passionate and romantic, but Charles was simple, honest, and awkward. A man without finesse. She craved a life of wealth and luxury, but her mother-in-law's constant nagging about frugality felt like a curse. Her monotonous life left Emma feeling irritated and distressed, as if cobwebs with crawling spiders were enveloping every corner of her heart, and she could do nothing about it. When she was invited to the Marquis's ball, Emma was mesmerized and captivated by the dazzlingly luxurious and elegant scene. Suddenly, her barren life seemed to open up a door, letting radiant sunshine flood in. Once she saw this light, she could no longer endure the darkness, not even for a moment. For Emma, enduring her current life was the equivalent of living in darkness, making her feel as though she was betraying herself. Thus, she sought every possible way to change her life to fit her desires. Emma urged Charles to perform surgery on a patient with a leg deformity, hoping that a successful operation would make him famous, elevating the family's status and prosperity. Unfortunately, the surgery failed, tarnishing Charles's reputation. This completely extinguished Emma's hopes for him. Charles then tried his best to travel far and wide for medical work to ensure his wife didn't have to worry about finances. At the same time, he remained obedient and devoted to Emma, taking care of her wholeheartedly. However, this modest and stable life only deepened Emma's boredom. She yearned for a life of extravagance and intense emotions, rather than the plain and cozy meals they shared together. Emma paid no attention to Charles's interests or feelings and ignored the happiness that was within her grasp. Like many in real life, she failed to cherish the happiness she already had. Many people don't worry about basic needs like food and clothing, but still yearn to live in lavish mansions and wear expensive clothes and accessories like others. There are parents whose children are obedient and healthy, yet they constantly compare them to other children, feeling theirs fall short of expectations. There are employees with stable jobs and harmonious colleagues, but they dream of working at bigger companies with higher salaries, failing to see the pressure and instability that might come with them. Some have devoted and caring partners but remain unsatisfied because their significant others aren't wealthy or prestigious like their friends' partners. Some people have sincere friends but dismiss those relationships simply because their friends lack social standing. Similarly, some children take their parents' care for granted and react harshly to their parents' concern. Only when their parents grow old or pass away do they realize the priceless nature of those moments. In life, many people are like Emma, gazing at the potted plants in front of their homes while yearning for the green willows and vibrant flowers outside their windows. The ancient Roman poet Horace once said, "He who does not think himself happy will never enjoy happiness." Blind comparisons or dissatisfaction with the present and a lack of gratitude for what one has will only lead happiness astray. Happiness isn't about marveling at the vastness of the ocean or the distant stars in the sky, but about discovering the charm of simple, everyday things right before us. Happiness isn't about complaining when others don't meet our expectations, but about finding peace in realizing we already have enough. We aren't lacking happiness. We lack the awareness to see that happiness has always been present in our lives. Only by recognizing the value of what we already have, cherishing it, and finding joy in the simple and familiar, can we truly grasp the meaning of happiness. Otherwise, happiness will remain elusive as we live within it, yet constantly chase after another, more distant version of it. This, in essence, is the greatest misfortune of life. The happiness we chase after is often just an illusion. Seeing Emma's growing dissatisfaction, Charles decided to change their environment and move the family to a different town. Here, Emma met Léon, a versatile and charismatic man. He had a passion for music, art, and literature, and enjoyed engaging in thoughtful conversations. The two began to interact frequently, sharing subtle, unspoken feelings. Emma quietly rejoiced, believing she had finally found a kindred spirit. However, Léon eventually turned away, leaving for Paris to pursue his future and career. What seemed like a bright, hopeful life after a long storm was once again shrouded in grey clouds. Then Rodolphe, a 34-year-old landowner, appeared. Emma's story took a new turn. Rodolphe was wealthy, generous, and experienced. Immediately drawn to Emma's beauty, he also saw through her shallow and vain nature. Thus began Rodolphe's calculated pursuit. He whispered sweet nothings into Emma's ear, skillfully luring her in, as though waiting for the fish to bite. Naive and inexperienced, Emma quickly fell into his trap. They became inseparable, marveling at their supposed destiny with exclamations like, "Why didn't we meet sooner?" Emma indulged in the forbidden pleasures of her clandestine affair. But even that was not enough for her. She took the initiative, proposing that she and Rodolphe elope and leave everything behind. Rodolphe feigned agreement but repeatedly delayed their plans. In the end, on the day of their supposed departure, he left only a letter and disappeared without a trace. Emma was devastated, falling gravely ill. During her suffering, Charles cared for her tirelessly, yet his devotion did little to quell the longing within her. Emma was desperate for a passionate love to soothe her parched heart. She encountered Léon and Rodolphe in turn, believing each time that she had found her true love. Yet, all she found were illusions. If her affair with Léon was like a droplet skimming the surface of a lotus leaf, her relationship with Rodolphe was a reckless gamble. For him, Emma was willing to burn every bridge, abandoning her husband and child. But for someone as seasoned in love as Rodolphe, it was merely a game he had orchestrated from the start. Once the game lost its thrill, he withdrew easily, without a hint of regret. In life, many people are like Emma, clinging to illusions and high expectations of finding someone better than their current partner. They envision their ideal partner as flawless, tall, radiant, with a high-paying job that brings them pride. For Emma, the perfect husband needed to be capable of earning enough for her extravagant spending. He had to be gentle and patient with all her demands, even understanding her unspoken feelings without her needing to voice them. For men, the ideal woman must be beautiful, charming, impeccably dressed, socially presentable, capable, obedient, and endlessly admiring of them. But how can such perfect people exist in real life? Today, many young people claim they hesitate to marry because they haven't met the right person. Yet the right person they seek is often a 100% idealized figure. A famous television host once remarked that in this world, there is no one perfectly compatible or flawless for you. If such a person exists, they are likely a master manipulator. If you suddenly meet someone who seems perfect, be cautious. Perfection is an illusion. Pursuing unrealistic ideals is like trying to grasp the moon's reflection in water, pluck stars from the sky, or chase mirages in a desert. Striving for perfection often ends in futile effort. True happiness doesn't stem from someone else's perfection or meeting our expectations, but from growing in awareness and appreciating what we already have. Meaningful and beautiful relationships don't simply materialize. They are the result of mutual effort and understanding. Instead of endlessly seeking external validation, we need to turn inward, learning to view life with positivity and gratitude. When we stop imposing unreasonable standards and begin nurturing values from within, we'll discover that happiness has always been within our reach, waiting for an open heart to embrace it. If we don't stop in time, we'll push ourselves into an abyss. After enduring so much pain and failure, Emma once blamed herself and vowed to abandon her illusions. However, upon reuniting with Léon, after a long separation, she quickly fell back into his arms. The two became deeply intertwined, immersing themselves in an intense and passionate affair. At first, their relationship was sweet and intoxicating, filled with overwhelming emotions. But as time went on, monotony crept into their hearts. Emma tried desperately to hold on to the fading relationship by spending lavishly. Influenced by her previous affair with Rodolphe, Emma had developed a habit of indulgence and reckless spending. Her extravagance only worsened with Léon. She spent money without restraint, hoping to buy even a fleeting smile from her lover. When her funds ran dry, Emma resorted to borrowing, juggling debts from one place to cover another, even selling off land Charles had inherited. But one day, she received a court summons demanding full repayment within 24 hours. If she failed, all their possessions would be seized. Facing the massive debt, Emma was overwhelmed with panic. She sought help from Rodolphe, but he feigned helplessness. Facing the massive debt, Emma was overwhelmed with panic. She sought help from Rodolphe, but he feigned helplessness. She then turned to Léon, only to find he had disappeared without a word. In utter despair, Emma made a foolish decision. Charles, searching anxiously for his wife, eventually returned home to find she had died. Later, he discovered the truth about her affairs. Yet, Charles did not blame Emma. When he encountered Rodolphe, he even felt envy for the love his wife had given the other man. The next day, Charles passed away as well. Their home was left empty, and their little daughter was orphaned. At just 9 years old, she had to work to survive. In this story, Emma blindly pursued love, crossing every boundary for her lovers and squandering money recklessly. However, her ultimate fate was one of bitterness and tragedy. Both of her lovers abandoned her in her darkest hour. Reality proved that love driven solely by selfish desires comes at a steep price. Emma's desires and impulses consumed her entirely. Life offered her multiple chances to awaken and change course, but she failed to stop. The result was a cruel tragedy, with the burden falling on her innocent child. In life, everyone has desires, both big and small. These desires can sometimes serve as motivation to move forward. However, they must be balanced with reason and self-control. If we let our desires dominate, acting blindly without restraint, the consequences are always disastrous. As Shakespeare once said, "Desire is like fire. If it's not cooled, it will consume the soul." Fire can provide warmth when controlled, but if it rages unchecked, it leaves only ashes and sorrow. Life's lessons remind us to be aware of our egos, expectations, and desires. Only by knowing when to stop, making timely adjustments, and mastering self-control can we achieve a healthy balance in life. This principle applies to material pursuits and emotional relationships alike. Once we pass this test, we gain the key to a new door, one that leads to a life of peace and meaning. Emma, Madame Bovary, had a happy family and a husband who loved her deeply. Yet she failed to appreciate her blessings and instead chased illusions to satisfy her selfish desires. The result was the destruction of both herself and her family. The author Gustave Flaubert once declared, "Madame Bovary, c'est moi. Madame Bovary is me." But more accurately, all of us have been Madame Bovary at some point in our lives. We often chase after illusions and endless expectations, neglecting or ignoring the happiness and beauty already surrounding us. The American scholar Moore once said, "A man travels the world in search of what he needs and returns home to find it." True happiness is always close by, present in the daily moments, and in every second we cherish the present. So, cherish the happiness that is already in your hands. Do not hold tightly to one happiness while seeking another, seemingly better one. Thank you for listening. If this content has been helpful, please share it with those who may need it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch our latest videos each week. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you in our next sharing session.